welcome to the Production Talk podcast with me, Yarn of mixartist.com.au. In this podcast series, we celebrate the modern way of producing music. We want to talk about all things related to songwriting, recording at home, and music production. So if you produce your music at home, this is the place to be. Please subscribe and recommend this podcast to all your friends. This is the Production Talk podcast, episode 29. Welcome back to another episode of the Production Talk podcast. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that the following conversation is recorded on, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Today, in this episode, I'm very glad to introduce my friend Saphia Stone, who I've known for many years and who I mixed a song for not too long ago. Saphia is an amazing multi-instrumentalist. She plays the drums, she plays guitar, and she sings. She's an amazing songwriter, and I'm just very happy to talk about this one song in a bit more length. So today we're going to speak about the story of the song, where it started, how it came together. And then in the week after, we're going to look a little bit further into the mastering process. So let's cut straight to the good stuff. Here is my interview with Saphia. Welcome.
Thanks, yeah.
And thank you so much for making time today to speak to me. And I'd first like to hear a bit more about yourself. So tell us about your love for music, some highlights of your career. Introduce yourself, please.
Okay, so my name is Saph, or it's actually supposed to be Saphia, but no one could ever say that growing up. So most people call me Sophia or Saph. And yeah, I've always loved music from just a really young age. I think for me it was sort of an escape, I think, just from the madness of the world, which I became aware of from a young age, that the world's a bit of or at least it felt a bit mad to me, the world. So I think for me, music just played a good part in being able to escape that, or it sort of made me feel a bit more normal, I think, and it's something that I could relate to, and just, yeah, it's always been the backdrop to my life. If I'm feeling good or bad, I'd always put, music on that would reflect that. But usually, yeah, I think I always seem to go for happier music. I think that's always, like, I think you're the same, like reggae, and I just sort of really enjoy listening to uplifting music, and rather than the love ballads or the more sadder songs. But and so yeah, when I was young, I sort of realized I was quite good at music because my mum put me into music lessons, and then very quickly I was able to pick up the instruments better than the people in the class. So they actually put me up quite a few years above what I should have been in, and so I sort of realized, okay, I'm sort of quite good at this.
And how old were you?
I think it was 5 when I started playing the recorder, but I don't think that really counts.
Cool.
As an instrument.
Oh, well, of course it does. Of course it does.
It doesn't.
That's cool.
Not sure about that, but and then I moved on to, I think it was the violin. And then when I was like 7 or 8. And then after that, the flute, and then I turned 13, I think it was, and I became really interested in like guitar and drums, and more sort of like the rock music and the rock instruments.
Cool. And in addition, you're also an absolutely phenomenal singer.
Oh, thank you.
So
thank you.
You're pretty much an entire band all in one person.
Sort of, yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And the singing thing was always, I think I was more shy about singing when I was younger, and that's something I sort of had to really work on, and am still working on it, to be more confident with my singing, and especially letting people listen to my singing and singing in front of people. I think that's still something I'm still working on, but put me on a drum kit, I'll play for 1 million people, no problem. But I've always found singing quite a vulnerable sort of thing to do.
It definitely is. But isn't that also the beauty of it?
It is. It is also the beauty. Yeah. But so that's why, I'm 36 now, and I finally got the courage to release some of my singing music. So that's a bit of a late bloomer there.
Great. And did you join bands as a teenager? What's your musical career like?
Yeah. So when I was 16, I had like a girl band with two of my friends. I think one of them you actually know, Nairi. She's Declan Kelly's sister. And she was the drummer in the band, and I sang with another girl and played bass as well. And
cool.
We were called Gyp Rock, and we had a bit of a run there in
that's
Bondi.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So we used to play at all the pubs and that. And then I played in a reggae band called The Front with some pretty awesome reggae musicians. There was when I was, I think, 21. And then I just decided I wanted to travel the world, and I didn't really want to do anything too much specifically. And I just sort of played music where I could, if that was busking on the street in Hawaii or just getting up at an open mic night like in Mexico or in LA. So, yeah, I just sort of did more like freelance, I guess you could call it freelance music busking, that's what busking really is, but yeah. That's
That's really cool. And you also have a significant background in music production. You worked in studios in Sydney, is that right?
Yeah. So
Can you tell us a little more?
For sure, yeah. So I did that's how we met. I did my Bachelor of Audio there at SAE. And that led to some great jobs. I think the best being the job I got at Forbes Street Studios in Sydney, which is connected to Universal Music. So suddenly I was, like in a studio with some really big acts like Tiger, the guys from INXS, Sean Kingston, just, amazing Universal artists were coming through, and I was sort of felt like a fish out of water. Yeah. And but that was really...
Don't we all?
I hope so. That makes me feel better.
Occasionally.
Do we all feel that way? That's good. But yeah, so I think that was the first time I actually felt like, wow, I'm actually a proper sound engineer, or a producer, I should say, because I think the word engineer, I always imagine someone, who can actually, like you, who can actually fix desks and knows what they're doing with electronics. But at least a producer, I can say I can definitely do that.
My kids would call that a nerd or a geek. Cool. Just recently you released your song Long Road Home.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear a bit more about the story of this song. How long ago did you write the song?
The song was written about 3 or 4 years ago, and I didn't actually write the original version of it. It was written by my friend Scott, who used to work in radio, and he's sort of like late 40s, and he wrote this amazing song, which I just thought captured so well, like a lot of older women's experience in life, like looking for love and not having quite found it yet, and wondering, is this going to happen for me? And so when he showed me this just the lyrics he'd written, and he showed me the lyrics, and I thought, this is such a great song, like this encapsulates my experience better than I could have written it. So I decided, I ended up changing some of the lyrics, and we put, I came up with a melody for it, and he put some chords to it. And we both love blues, so we decided to make it a bit of a bluesier sound. And so I didn't write it myself. I co-wrote it with this guy called Scott Muller. And that's how it came about. But it's funny because this guy can just write songs that it's almost like he is a woman somehow. The way he can get into the mind of how women feel and think. So yeah, I think I might try and write some more songs with him, because it's nice when you meet someone who can sort of sum up how you feel and think better than you can, and you can just sort of rearrange it and add on it.
Wow. Okay, it's a really touching song, so I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Tell me how the song has changed over the years. You know, if we went back, let's say 4 years when you wrote it, was the song of a different structure? What was different back then, and how has it progressed? How has it evolved?
Yeah, well, the song, once we recorded it, it pretty much has stayed the same since then. And I didn't do much with it because I didn't think it was that great. But then when you actually were offering your free test mixes, I thought, you know what, I want to see what this song would sound like with a professional mixer doing it. And then when you sent it back, it was the first time I actually really heard the song as being great. And then that's what gave me confidence to sort of think maybe this actually could be a release. And so, yeah, you really played an integral part, because otherwise I think I would have just kept it there in my iTunes library and not done too much with it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the song is basically still the same version as it was right at the beginning when you wrote it?
Yeah, so the song itself has really stayed the same. I think it's just more the elements of the mixing and the mastering that has actually brought the song alive.
Okay.
Other than that, the song's pretty much stayed the same. Just because I think if there's definitely things listening back to it, I'd love to add in like an organ and add in like a few ad libs to the vocals. But I just think, and I think again, you actually taught me this, like sometimes it's just good to leave a song and just put it out there, because you could spend your whole life changing things and trying to get it perfect. And then that's an obstacle to you actually just putting it out there. Like sometimes it's just better to put it out there and then move on and work on a new song. And so I think, that was actually you that gave me that pep talk there on the beach. I remember sitting on the park bench.
Little nudge. Yeah.
And you're like, just put it out there. Which I needed someone to tell me that, because otherwise I probably would have been like, oh, it's not perfect yet. Maybe I'll just wait till I find an organ player and then I can release it. So thank you for the advice, because that was the thing that gave me the push to put it out there.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's really good. And when you wrote the song, were you fully clear about the instrumentation? Did you have the full, arrangement and instrumentation already in your mind? I guess you probably just started with guitar and vocals or something.
Yeah.
You added additional instruments.
The song was
how did that come to play? Yeah.
Okay. The song was pretty much already done as far as the guitar and vocals was concerned. And at the time I had a recording studio in Surrey Hills with Declan Kelly, who I know you know, and this other sound engineer called Drew Bissett. And so I said to Scott, like, let's just go and record it and see what we come up with. We actually we didn't record live drums. I'm not sure if I told you that, but there's these awesome like drum loops you can download off the internet, and they've been recorded by like the best drummers in the best studios with the best audio equipment. So we found like a drum loop and beat and sort of made it that we liked it. And then we just started to track the guitars and did like a guide vocal so that we could lay everything down. And there wasn't really much plan to it. We just sort of played around with even just the microphone positions and recording techniques. And some of the vocals I sort of added later, like the ones in the bridge, I think, the oohs that sort of with the nice effects that have been put on it and the things that you added, it's sort of you're not quite sure if it's a vocal or like what exactly is that effect. That all just sort of came about just like, playing around in the studio and just recording stuff and seeing how it sounded. So I think
nice.
I think that's the beauty of being the producer and recorder of your own song and having your own studio, is that you can afford to just mess around and take time to just be like, what does it sound like if I do this?
So when you say you had your own studio where you recorded, how can we visualize that? Was that like a professionally fitted studio? Was that a home studio or rehearsal room? Or to describe the environment in which the song was recorded.
Okay, so yeah, I'd say it's it's actually still going there in Sydney in Surrey Hills. It's called The Nest, and Declan and Drew still have it. I think someone replaced my third share of it, but I would say it's sort of like halfway between a professional recording studio and a home studio. So we got most of the materials to build it from like upcycling, like recycling stores and reverse garbage and things like that. We used all that to make the sound absorbers and the acoustic panels. So that was pretty cool. And then we just all sort of collectively threw in all the audio gear we had, which was actually pretty good that we could use each other's stuff. And together we sort of had quite a nice collection of microphones and audio preamps, and we had a bit of an old console that I think no one used, but it looked cool. so yeah, I'd say it was somewhere between a home studio and a professional studio.
Cool. And you were basically involved in patching it all together and making it work. And
the patching, not so much.
Treatment.
I think more the stapling of the material onto the sound panels and painting the walls and shopping for the materials and stuff like that. Patching I would love to learn, but I think that I might need to take another course for that one because I still don't understand it.
Yeah, you need a geek for that.
A geek, yeah. Maybe that's what I need to find. A geek boyfriend, if there's any geeks out there who are single, which I think most of them are. But yeah.
Okay. And and then you started with drum loops. So did you work in a DAW, I guess?
Yeah, so I was working just on my MacBook Pro in Logic Pro X. And the reason I love to record in Logic rather than Pro Tools is I just find the ability to sort of copy and paste and time stretch and all those sort of things, that it just feels very intuitive to me. So yeah, we just recorded straight into that, and same with the drums. I just sort of copied and pasted bits I liked and made it so it sounded like there was a real drummer there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well, Logic is super capable. I love my Logic.
You love it as well?
It's absolutely phenomenal.
It's great. I think once you go to Logic, it's sort of hard to go back to Pro Tools. That's at least what I've experienced in talking to people. Would you say that's true?
Oh, look, I love all of them. They're all good for certain things and, not so good for others. And for me, it's all about using the software to their strength.
Yeah, true.
So I don't mix in only one DAW. I just literally choose it according to the problem in front of me.
Okay, yeah.
And find the best tool for it. So, nobody really cares how we record it or what software we use. And, once the song is out, that's completely irrelevant. So whatever feels right for you is the right tool, I guess.
That's very true. Yeah.
Okay. And we haven't really spoken about the bass yet.
So the bass, Scott actually played the bass on this one because he's a phenomenal blues guitarist, and he actually can't play the bass, but he just sort of...
You're right. Really?
Yeah, it was... But because he knew his guitar chords so well, he was like, let me see if I can come up with a bass line. And he just sort of like nailed it the first time. And it was perfect for the song because it wasn't too much and it just sort of sits in the background. And I liked the fact that it wasn't... Perhaps if I'd actually got like a proper bass player to come, they would have played too much. So I sort of liked the fact that he wasn't a bass player and therefore he wasn't sort of doing too much. Although I guess any good bass player would also do the same thing. It's like good drummers know that less is more, and the less you sort of stand out with your instrument on the track, the better. Actually, I was just talking a while back to Terapi about that, and he was saying, if he does a gig and people say, the drumming was really great, I loved your drumming, he actually thinks to himself, I didn't do a good gig tonight, because the best compliment he can get is if people say, oh, wow, the music was great, because that means he did his job properly, like he made the musician sound good rather than trying to be like, look what a great drummer I am. So I think
got it.
Yeah, so I really like that concept of, trying to if you're playing, I think especially instruments, is trying to make the other musicians sound good rather than thinking, do I sound good, or how good am I going to come across with my instrument? So I think I like that concept, and I think I try to do that a bit with my playing.
Oh, that's really wise. Makes perfect sense to me. Great. So, okay, and then you had the drum loops and the bass and the guitars, and you said that was recorded to a guide vocal?
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah, just to a guide.
And then at the end of it, after you recorded all the instruments, you just chucked that and replaced the vocals?
Yes, I think I did a guide vocal, and then we did sort of like the rhythm guitars, and then I did like a proper vocal take so that the lead guitar could sort of bounce off the vocal, because there is always sort of that sort of call and response. I think that happens a bit with the vocalist and the lead guitarist.
Okay.
So if I had used the guide vocal, then I guess the guitar player couldn't have really gone off. If he done some crazy lick and then I'd end up doing like a different vocal take, it's not going to really work. So we did the final vocal take, and then we sort of added on all the extra lead guitar bits.
Fantastic. So you sort of recorded the foundation first, and then the vocals, and then you added the extra bits around it.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
That is such a smart workflow. I like that a lot. I actually do that myself when I record, which I don't do that much anymore. But that's a really good concept. I like that.
Cool,
nice one. And at what stage did you know that everything was recorded? Did you go through a process where you were rethinking about your performances or re-recording things, maybe, or were you just happy straight away and knew that's it?
I think I was never happy with anything really, except for all the bits that I wasn't doing. I loved the guitars and the bass and the drums. But I think it's a bit of that. I'm not sure if it happens to all musicians and singers, but I pretty much hate everything I do. So I think I just recorded lots and then chose the bits that I didn't hate as much. That's it.
Well, you're very critical with yourself.
I think apparently it's quite common that a lot of musicians don't like what they do, but they also have
I know.
they also have this urge to put it out there. So it's sort of like a curse. Yeah. You hate it, but you also have to do it.
A producer can really help to make decisions on what's not good enough yet and what's ready.
Definitely.
And so sometimes another person can make these decisions better.
100%.
Not always. Not always. But sometimes. Yeah.
But I think a producer's crucial. I've really come to realize that, like as the further I've gone along, because you do need someone to, I think, put their input in and to encourage you or to be like, you're right, that's crap. So definitely. I think if you look at most successful artists in the world, they have either co-produced with someone or had an amazing producer, or they've had amazing songwriters. Like I was just watching something on Netflix the other day about most of the songs we hear on the radio are all written by the Swedish songwriter Max Martin, and most of them were actually like recorded and produced there in Sweden at his studio, and like you'd never know it because they're so humble, the Swedes, and they all have you heard of it? It's called like Gentelagen. It's the Swedish.
I have never heard about that. Please explain.
Okay, so Gentelagen is this thing where you're not supposed to like brag about your successes or talk about really anything you've accomplished or how much money you have, all that sort of thing. So it's a really big sort of like Swedish unwritten law. And so that's why, no one's really heard of Max Martin, who's he wrote everything from like Hit Me Baby One More Time, Britney Spears, to like all the Taylor Swift Ariana Grande songs that we hear on the radio. He's been involved in all of that. But because of Genterlagen, he just keeps very humble, very low key. But I think that's why people enjoy working with him as well, because they sort of get all the credit. So where was I going with that? I've lost my train of thought.
That's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, producers are very important.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
cool. Look, a producer can be very hands-on and very involved, or it could be just, somebody who just offers a second opinion every once in a while. Everything is possible.
That's true.
And getting a second opinion from other people is always a good idea, I reckon.
Yes, definitely.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
From the right people, of course.
Yeah,
Say,
exactly.
Before you sent the song off for mixing, was there much editing necessary? Did you spend, hours crossfading and, moving little snippets and notes around?
Yeah, like not too much. I think I wanted to, especially with the vocal, just keep it quite raw. Yep. So I think the editing was more a creative element rather than I wanted to sort of keep it quite close to the original recording.
Yep. Yeah, nice. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I guess, in some ways the degree of editing or the time spent editing already sets the production in some ways. It can make it really polished or natural and earthy.
Yeah, and definitely.
I find that long editing sessions can be very soul destroying, very tiring, very boring. I don't enjoy spending a day just editing toms or something like this. That's
100%. Yes.
Yeah,
can drive you nuts.
Painful. It's so painful. Yeah, I can do it, but I don't enjoy it at all. And it's not always better because things have been edited to death.
Exactly. I remember you telling us that story about we'd spend all night editing something, and because you are such an audio. I don't want to say nerd, but you're...
Oh, yeah, you can say that. That's fine. I'm good with that.
Because you're such an audio nerd. You timed the editing markers to the time signature or something. You done some mathematical equation in line with the mixing, and then you went to bed being like, I'm a genius, this sounds awesome. And then you listen back in the morning with fresh ears, and then you're like, oh, I've just wasted a day of my life because it sounds terrible. And
what have I done? Look, that sounds like something I would have done in an earlier life when I was younger. Yes. Yes. Look, I think I learned a lot along the way, and I probably learned when to stop and when it's enough.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
Then I had to learn it the hard way. Yes. I've overdone it more than once and had to backpedal and go back to an earlier saved version.
100%. Yeah.
What I do religiously whenever I produce is every once in a while, whenever I accomplish a certain production step, I make a save as version of the session. So, I record something and call it, recording session. And then once that's done, it goes into editing. And then once that's done, it goes into mixing or whatever. And there's always a save in between so that I can go back in case I find myself steering in the wrong direction, which, in all honesty, has saved me more than once. I've taken bad turns in production many times. And it's just really good to have a little library of previous versions of the production to fall back onto and say, okay, the last day needs to go in the bin. Let's go back a step. Exactly. It can be really good. All it takes is a little save as.
That's it. Yes. I think that the save as has saved many people, I think. Yeah.
Yes, that is so true.
Yeah, the save as has saved many people. I think we all have a tendency to over edit and over mix, and usually the earlier ones are quite often the better ones. I think as well.
Yeah. Yes, some people say that the rough mix always sounds the best, which is sometimes true, not always. But that's also because it's not it's spontaneous. It's just what happened in the moment, and there's no time for overthinking. And overthinking, I believe, is a big problem in music production. And with all the technology that we have, it sometimes steers us that way. I think so it's a good reminder to not overthink and just, if it's good, just leave it alone. I reckon. Yeah?
That's enough. 100%. I agree. I think Yeah, that's right.
So tell me more about arranging a song. What makes a good arrangement in a song? How do you know that an arrangement works? Or when do you know that arrangement needs, a bit of refinement? What do you look for when you write songs in arrangements?
Arrangement. That's a good question. I think that's something I'm still learning about more. I tend to follow the generic sort of, I think everyone would like to write a hit song, or unless you're just putting music out there that doesn't follow any sort of format, like the Bohemian Rhapsody sort of example.
Yeah.
I think most arrangements they were just like, we're just going to do whatever we want and put it out there. But I think most songs do sort of tend to follow that hit song arrangement of verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus, chorus. And I think people do that because it works and it seems to be satisfying to listen to and for the brain. And generally not longer than 3 minutes seems to be. Although now with all, everyone having ADD because of Instagram and things, I think songs are actually getting shorter. I've noticed people listen to the first maybe a minute and a half of songs. So I think songs are actually going to, I think we'll start seeing that songs are becoming shorter now. And even on, TikTok and these apps that, if it's longer than a minute, you can't even post it. So I think I'm curious to know how that's going to actually affect song arrangement and song time length. But in terms of arrangement,
that's a really good thought.
Yeah, I think everything's changing. But I think arrangement, I just sort of follow the pretty standard generic formula, and as long as I think the emotion comes across well and it's somewhat creative, I think that's sort of what I'm going for.
Okay. And what about the instrumentation? When you write a song, how do you intuitively know that this song needs, I don't know, grungier guitar or more open chords or finger picking or organs? Where does that all come from? Or do you experiment a lot? Do you just try different things and see what works?
Yeah.
How do you come up with a good instrumentation?
It's kind of for me, it's sort of like a philosophical question, I think, because
definitely.
Where does it come from? Often I think a lot of musicians are sort of channeling when they just, pick up a guitar and start playing and something comes out and they say, every guitar has a song. If you pick up a new guitar and you start playing a song, you're like, where did that come from? And I think same with music. Often music, I hear things like if someone's playing some chords, I'll hear like a melody or hear a cool sort of guitar pick. And same with dreams. Like I've often heard my songs completely rearranged and with extra instrumentation in my dreams. And I wish I could record my dreams because, I think apparently it's quite a common phenomena that people do hear songs and hear their songs and their dreams a bit different or with changes. And I wish there was a dream recorder that we could record our dreams because the songs in my dreams are amazing. So,
that sounds like something you should invent and make millions.
I know. I might need your help with that, though, Yarn, because I wouldn't know where to start.
No idea. But
Yeah. So where does it come from? I'm not really sure. I guess it comes from just the creative, the zone, or the some sort of a brainwave frequency. I'm not really sure on that. What would you say the answer is to that one?
About the instrumentation?
Yeah, like where does it come from?
Well, I'm just curious. I think everybody's got a different answer there. And it's just, hoping to find out more about, your thoughts. But look, I don't think there's any wrong or right. It either works or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then, you got to do something about it and change it. But
that's true, yeah.
Yeah, look, workflows are always just a tool, and a certain workflow might fit one person, but might be super inappropriate for somebody else. So it's okay to have different workflows, and some people just know it instantly, and others need to try everything first before they know.
Yeah.
There's really no wrong or right, as long as you get to a good outcome, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good. So, and in the timeline of the production of this song, eventually you got to the point where you passed it on to a mastering engineer. I'm very curious to find out more about your thoughts. How did the song change when it went through mastering?
Yeah, so I think the biggest elements I noticed from the mastering is it just sort of sounded finished and polished. And I also was able to hear what you had done on the mix a lot better, and the sort of intricate elements and the textures that you had added in, which I could hear, but then suddenly it popped. And then another really big thing is that it's radio friendly, and it's at the right decibel for Spotify playlists. And because I can't remember exactly, is it 12? Oh, this is testing my memory now. I think it has to be, is it minus 12 dB to go on? No. Oh, I've forgotten, but maybe you can tell me. To go onto Spotify and all these playlists, it does have to be at a certain decibel frequency, which I've completely forgotten what it is. Yeah. Somewhere between 12 and 14.
Yeah. Look, the industry actually doesn't agree on anything yet.
Oh,
and,
okay.
That's the problem. The different players use different reference levels for their loudness normalization. And Spotify used to be different than all the other services. Mm-hmm. And eventually, just not that long ago, maybe a year ago, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong with that, but they changed their internal measurements to loudness units, or LUFS as it's called, which is a more modern method of measuring loudness, and therefore fell in line with the rest of the industry, or finally followed suit with what everybody else was doing. But the level at which they normalize volume is not standardized across the platform. So what Apple does is different to what Spotify does, and that's different again to what YouTube does. So there's no simple answer there.
Okay.
But the good news is that because loudness is normalized on the playback devices, we don't really need to think about it too much. We shouldn't see this as a target that we must fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
I would always recommend to just use the dynamic range for a song that suits the song. And for an EDM, high energy techno song, that would be very different than a film score or a death metal song or what have you. And each song has their different needs, and that's the beauty of it. We can't just mix and master for the song, for what the song really needs. And if that then ends up louder or quieter than everything else, the loudness normalization will just balance that out later.
Right.
So that's the advantage.
Okay.
We shouldn't see this as a target that we must fulfill.
Yeah.
Although some people say so,
mm-hmm.
but in my personal opinion, I believe it's just do whatever it takes to make the song good.
Yes, and not
that's really what it is, and and then loudness normalization will take care of the rest, basically.
Right. Yeah, I like that, and I think that shows you are a true artist, mixer, and engineer. Because I think most people just try to get their songs onto Spotify or wherever as loud as possible, and there has been a big thing about some people having their songs louder than others through various means. So I think that the normalization doesn't.
What really happens these days is the louder you make it in the production, the more they turn it down in Spotify. That's effectively what happens, and there's not much to be won, because with high loudness comes negative side effects, and they remain even if they turn it back down on the other end. So I think that we live at a time where judging mastering just by loudness and making the loudness the measure of how good it is, that's a bit of a foolish thing. That's a thing of the past, and it didn't serve the industry well.
Yeah.
So instead, just close your eyes and ask yourself, do I enjoy the song?
Yeah.
Does it sound natural? Does it sound the way I intended it? And that's the best question to answer. And it's a good time to be. That's the beauty of our time. And I think that's also what will shape the sound of this decade, I hope, at least.
Yes. Bring back that dynamic range.
People going back to, bring back a touch of dynamic range, or the dynamic range needed for each song. Some songs don't need much dynamic range and they just don't want to be loud start to finish. And that's fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong about that.
That's true.
Whatever suits the song, I guess. Yeah. I know it's really hard to get a black and white yes, no answer out from me. I never do that, or very rarely. Good. Nice one. Look, I have another interview with the mastering engineer of your song,
awesome.
which will then air next week.
Wow.
So a little preview here, and we will talk about mastering mainly, but we will probably steer back to your song as well to some degree. So maybe we'll hear some more secrets about what was done in the next episode next week.
Awesome. Looking forward to hear that.
If you don't mind, I'd like to change the subject a little bit.
Okay.
I know it's so much effort that goes into the writing and performance and recording and editing and mixing and mastering of a song. But that's actually only one half of the entire picture. Once you get it back from mastering, that's actually when the work starts. Now you need to get it out there and publish it. And that's not good enough either. You need to bang the drum and make some noise and draw some attention to the song and promote the song. And that usually happens through social media. And by my observation, you're very out there on social media. You're very outspoken, very omnipresent in many ways. So what are your secrets? What needs to be done once a song is out? Now, how can one use social media effectively to draw attention to music?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure I have the answer to that either.
Give me your take.
Well, I think that there's two paths you can go down. This is sort of what I've come to realize. You can do there are these formulas out there of how to get your music heard and use hashtags and send it to all these different playlists and pay for people to put it on their Instagram pages and various platforms, and there is sort of like that path I think you can go down. I'm not really sure what path I'm going down. I think I'm just sort of trying to experiment with just seeing how far it can get organically, which isn't going too well. So I think I'm going to have to perhaps implement some of these tips and strategies that these experts are saying to do, which I actually need to do because I haven't put enough time into it. But yeah, you're right. It's very time consuming. This is the part where the real work, I think, starts. It's easy to I think, write a song and record it and put it out there. But yeah, to actually get it heard, I think is the harder bit. And I think number one, it has to be a good song, because I think if it's a good song, it will naturally, people will just be like, oh, listen to this song and have you heard that? And it will just, start getting picked up. So I think that's number one, have a good product. And then, number two, I don't know, I think I tend to be a bit silly on social media. I like to often just have fun and make funny things. But yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm doing on there, to be honest. But I'm glad that you think it looks like
just a natural, maybe.
I'm not sure about that, but I'm glad that it comes across that way to you.
Well, to me, it sounds like, or feels like on social media, you're definitely an extrovert. No, you're not holding back. There's always something funny happening, and always something. And I guess that is already a big part of why you are so strong on social media, that you're just consistently putting things out there.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
And that just seems to be just your natural way of dealing with social media. So that's a huge advantage that you have, and play that card is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, thank you.
Play that card. Use that for your music as well.
Great, I will. I'll keep doing that. I'm glad to hear that. Sometimes I wonder if the things I put out are just ridiculous, but it's good to know that you find it funny, and perhaps it's just my way.
Absolutely.
Perhaps I'm sure there's some.
Keep it up.
Oh, thank you. I think we have to be I think social media has become such a strange and sort of weird place now that we almost have to make it a bit funny in some ways. Otherwise, I think if you take it too seriously, it's just this sort of, it's a creepy data. Have you seen the thing on Netflix called Social Dilemma?
Oh yes, I have.
You've seen it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I recommend everybody to check it out. Wow, that's deep and scary.
Yes, it's very scary to think that everything you're putting is just really being collected for data use, so that they can use it against you to sell you stuff, and knowing how to pitch advertising to you. I think that definitely makes me a bit creeped out. But I think, as you said, use things to your advantage, and there's definitely lots of advantages to social media, especially when it comes to promoting music. And I don't think I have any tips because I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay. I'm just trying to work it out. Also, I think the internet.
Well, you naturally do really well. So,
well, thank you.
But look, if listeners are curious and want to find out more about you and listen to your song, where can they find you?
They can find me on all good streaming platforms, which are Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. I think there's actually 120 stores that have my music on it, like online stores. So pretty much everywhere.
Wow.
I think that you can
excellent
play music. And just look up Saphia Stone. So that's Saphia and then Stone. And I should come up with my first single, Long Road Home, and hopefully there'll be some more singles which are coming up very soon.
I was just about to ask, what's cooking at the moment? Have you got any projects going? Is there anything you want to share, maybe?
Yeah, I've actually got another song. I've got this song called Mr. Miller, which I'm going to release soon. I actually just need to get it. I was going to get it mixed by you, but I don't have the original session anymore because it was such a long time ago. But once I get it mastered, I'm going to release that. And then I sort of was going to just record some more music on my own, which is because even though it's funny you think I'm an extrovert, I'm really a huge introvert, and I really enjoy working on my own and by myself. But I'm going to push myself this year and see if I can actually get out of my comfort zone and record music with other people, whether that's, someone like yourself or like producers that can add their flavor to it. Because I think that it is so important to have, as you said, two heads are better than one. So that's what I'm definitely going to focus on this year is collaborating and trying to get some more music out there with other people's help, because I think that's really important.
I'm very much looking forward to whatever's in the pipeline there. So keep us posted, please. I can't wait.
Thank you, Yarn.
To see what your next songs are like.
Oh, thank you.
Good. Saph, thank you so much for making the time today. I really appreciate you sharing all of this with me and my listeners. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks, Yarn. Thanks for having me. And I felt very complimented to be asked even to be on it. So thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much, Saphia, for appearing on the podcast. Much appreciated. I took a lot out of it. It's always good chatting to you. So next week, we are changing the focus a little bit. We talk about mastering, and with us will be a mastering engineer from the biggest mastering facility in the country, who also mastered Saphia's song Long Road Home. Talking about the song Long Road Home, please stop by the show notes. I put a link in there. You can listen there directly. And I would also appreciate if you could rate and review this podcast in your podcast application. And your 5-star review would make a world of a difference to me. Thank you so much. Also, if you want to stop by our Facebook community group called the Production Talk Podcast Community, if you want to have a chat on Facebook with me, I'll be there to answer your questions. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have a great week. I'll speak to you next week. Bye for now.